Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, chapter 115. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you here every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, to walk you through my process of writing a script as a way of trying to teach screenwriting. I have a full channel full of great lesson videos. Those are the ones that have the plain type with the title that just says the topic. And then I've got these step-by-step live streams to try and show you a different thing, which is the process, the actual detailed everyday process of writing a script, because nobody seems to talk about that. And I think it's actually one of the most important things you can learn. Every script is different, every writer is different, but no matter what your project is and no matter what you're like, you're going to have to figure out a process. And that's what I want to try and show you here. This is my process. It's just how I have figured it out in my 25-year career as a writer of movies and TV shows here in Los Angeles, California. I had to teach myself. I had to figure it out, and I think some of this stuff might be useful to you, so I am here to let you look over my shoulder as I write a script, because it's the easiest way that I can figure out to show you all the little steps that one takes to write a script. It's not the best way. It's not the only way. It's just a start for you to think about your way. And with that, hello, Maria, who is figuring out her way. Yes, you did. First indeed. Hi, I write, and this is Kitschy and Andrea. Okay, hello, everybody. Great to see all ya. Let's get right to it, because I had a long weekend, because I had yesterday doing some family stuff, so I also got to do work over the weekend on the outline, and I'm going to catch you up on that. Hello, Phil J. So here's the deal. Over the weekend, I finished up. We still had a few scenes that I wanted to get the notes into the outline, and then I just spent some time by myself just cleaning it up so that we could talk about what has to be done now. So let's run through the outline now, and I will show you all of the notes that I made in my first read. Just my first. We have not even begun to read. We have not even begun to ask questions. Are now in the outline. So the outline is like a workspace with a list of things you need to do, ideas for how you might do it. And one of the things I try to do is my format for an outline. Hello, Najo, Natasha. Hello, Janae. Hey, everyone. Hello. Oh, wow. It's just great to see all you folks here to share this with me. So this is the deal. What I'm trying to do is make each scene and each step of the outline is a way to think in scenes, to say, in this scene, all you have to do is write it scene by scene. What is this scene about? What is the thing I have to get done in this scene? What is the change or action or a character revelation that is happening in this scene? And so I went through and I tried to just clean up. In the gray is just the things we were thinking of. And then now and then I will have something here in pink. That is the stuff where I'm like, I do not know this. I have not figured this out. All right, so one of the things this is just a note actually that I made to show you guys. I did not know, I don't know really what I was thinking about when I said in my notes, make George not part of the online community. I think I was thinking about the idea that he was solitary, he was a loner, he was whatever it was, it's a terrible idea, and I'm taking it out. I am saying that he has to be part of the online community, he has to talk about it. The reason is, proportionally, the important thing about George is that he feeds this group this problem. That's his real job. He tells us about, he drags Madeline into this group and he presents them with this problem, which is he said he had evidence about a serial killer and then he got murdered apparently by the serial killer. He's the whodunit. So to say he didn't know these people is just adding an extra step of complexity, an extra step that I do not need because it doesn't help. It's backstory. So one of the things, so I just went through and I said, these are the things I just have to remember to try and get in. Like, this is not his first or only podcast. There's a lot of stuff about George I was figuring out as I went along. Oh, this is really important. I want to stop and talk about this. One of the things I really would like you to pay attention to here as we go through this is how much things you think are important are not important later. How many wrong turns you make. That is normal. It is part of the process. Build a process that leaves room, that assumes that you're going to make decisions and then stop and question them later. That's what this is about right now. We're going back, we are saying, let me just think about this. Why did I do this? What is the important thing about it? Because in the moment, you get all fixed on some detail. So one character, there's like 30 characters in this story. And what I was thinking was, well, this is George. I want to make George interesting. I want to make George blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. George has one scene and then he dies. So it's really important to create a process where you plan to change things. You plan to rethink, to have been wrong, to have tried something and learned from it. That is why you write a rough draft as best you can, and then you go back to the outline and you make notes and you say, well, what is the most important thing here? What is the thing that I need to get that anything else I have to judge by and say, oh, is that really is that worth taking up space or taking us out of our path for? It is okay. It is part of the job to change, to think about it and say, this thing became more important than that thing. That is not set in stone. It is not like when you say it at the beginning, it has to stay true. Some things will become the most important. The things that you're going to say, everything else has to fit to this. You only find that stuff by doing this process, writing an outline, writing a draft, looking at the draft, writing a new outline. You begin to say, okay, this is the one I'm choosing out of all of these. And it should be able to stand the test of many, many drafts. And truly, you can go through something and do like 5 drafts and then realize that other character is actually more important. It happens. It happens to the best of us. It's okay if you plan. If you say, that's the deal. That's the process. That's how this works. Okay. Okay. Apparently I am messing up Johannes's life. I really apologize and hello to you. Let me just remind you, Johannes, you can watch the recorded version. I need you to get enough rest. I need you all to get enough rest and plenty of fluids and a healthy nutrition and some exercise. That is part of the process of being a writer. Okay. Brief question from Natasha. What is the normal amount of acts? Well, that's tricky because there's really no such thing as an act. Briefly, let's do this. Acts. And let me make a note so I can put it in the description later. Okay. Acts are a made-up thing. When you're on the stage, the act is when you close the curtain and people can get up and walk around. On television, acts were what they called sections between commercial breaks. That was an act. So there used to be 5 or 6 because you had the teaser and then you had like 5 acts and then sometimes whatever. That was just how it worked for the American television business in the era of commercial television, which is now over. So therefore, Yeah, you can have 5 acts. You could have 2 acts. You could have no acts. If you look at a streaming show, does it have acts? Maybe, kinda. Maybe it has 7. Maybe it has 4. The important thing about an act is it is a section. It's a hunk. And so you can decide how many hunks you want in your piece. I don't know how many hunks I got. I'd have to look at it. And at some point later I will. I will look at this outline and I will say, how many acts is this? I don't know. Once I have gone through this and started to deal with these questions, we're going to take a day soon enough to stop and look at this from what they call 30,000 feet, where I'm going to take out all the details and just look at scene by scene. What is the one thing this scene should do? When I'm doing that, I probably can see acts. The 3 acts that people talk about partly was a movie thing, but basically 3 acts is really beginning, middle, and end. And the middle is always longer, and the beginning and end are always relatively short compared to the middle. That's just how acts are. So the answer is, how many acts? How many acts do you want? Or how many acts is the company you are working for doing? For instance, Hulu. Hulu does streaming shows which are commercial if you pay a certain amount, or no commercials if you pay another amount. So therefore, they leave spaces. They think in terms of, we have to break for a commercial. And when you break for a commercial, you want there to be a feeling of suspense or questions raised, a little, what they call a mini cliffhanger, a little like, that's going to bring up some interesting questions. You tend to put that at the end of an act so that people won't leave in the commercials. So that is the main act thing. And what's interesting about the Hulu shows is that they leave a little blackout where the commercial would have been, because the scene was structured to have a little bit of a break. But they don't want to make you walk away and have commercials, so they just put like a 4-second black spot, a little blackout in the act breaks. So that's kind of interesting, because you can see on a Hulu show where the acts are, because they actually have a blackout if you are not paying the commercial rate, if you're paying the fancy rate. Yes, Maria says, use acts to break your films or your pilot into sections. It's cool. Acts are good, but there's no right way. There is a formal network act theory. I think it's 5, but it depends. Also, it depends on whether you're doing an hour long or a half hour. Half hour does not have 5 acts. The 5-act structure comes from Aristotle's Poetics, but honestly, this is really important that you know. Basing your script on Aristotle's Poetics is a big mistake, because Aristotle was not writing for TV. And what happened was, people are always desperate for some great thinker to explain the meaning of life to them. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, Aristotle was one of the guys, because he was Greek and he was the first formulator. And so everyone was like, okay, that's it. Western culture, we got it. That's it. We're all working in the same boat here. Things have changed. Aristotle sometimes has some good points. He has some terrible points. Likewise, George Bernard Shaw and Shakespeare, who also did 5 acts. George Bernard Shaw did 4 or 3. Arthur Miller, they all got great theories. Read them up, do them. It depends. It just depends. Oh, Amber Miller, you bought you. I'm gonna ban. Okay. The UK TV screen has 4 acts. Yes. What I would say is research acts in terms of, you'll see there's lots of people who have theories of acts. None of them is right. Any of them can work. See what you like and do that. The other thing I would say about acts is, if you are working for a specific thing, if you are writing for American network television, they have act rules. Find out what they are. Go on the internet, read some interviews, listen to some podcasts with people who work in that field. if you're talking to someone who's working streaming, they may have an entirely different way to look at it. Do some research. It's on you. Learn by researching. There has never been so much information out there on screenwriting. Never. I swear to God, you have no idea how little information there used to be on screenwriting. Right now, there's so much that all I can say to you is go out, read podcasts, listen to podcasts, read interviews. There's some good books out there, some trashy books. It doesn't matter. They'll all have something worthwhile. So, okay. Yep. I find it interesting how the technology has always driven the structure and length of it. Yes, it is. That is absolutely true and fascinating. For instance, streaming, they are kind of going between 8 and 13 episodes usually for a season. A lot of that has to do with contractual stuff for the creators. In other words, it costs about X amount to make this thing. We don't want to make a 50 episode season because it'll just cost too much and take too long. It's hard. You have to get the season done in a short amount of time so that they're not paying everybody their weekly salary. So BBC, 6. They've decided 6 is the right number of episodes. It's entirely based on business and technology, a mixture of business, technology, and culture. Maria is big on 5-act structure. And, you know, the cool thing about 5-act structure is that it kind of breaks down to a teeter-totter with a section in the middle. And that's kind of cool. That's a useful way to look at it. So is 4, but there's no middle section. You just have the teeter-totter. You know, it's whatever works for you. Okay, let's get back to this. So one of the things I wanted to get to here is, this is interesting, by the way, the George smokes thing. It is accurate. This character would probably smoke. However, in terms of ratings and stuff, it's in bad form right now, at least in American businesses, to show smoking. So not sure. Okay, so I wanted to write, I wrote this in green so that you guys could see it. Because what happened was I got to the part where George is poisoned. And I had thought, you know, I want to make clear that the thing he's dying of is the thing that the poisoner does. And I thought maybe I should intercut flashbacks of him like going, ugh, and then him saying, you know, well, your throat gets paralyzed. But it's really on the nose. I think it's gonna insult the audience. Maybe that will turn out not to be right. I thought about maybe him listening to it. He's listening to a playback of his own work while he's working, and he goes to get a sandwich and he's listening to it, and that's fun. But I don't know. It didn't seem believable, so I haven't decided. And what I wanted to say is be wary of notes and changes that are based on fear. Like, oh, I'm afraid the audience won't get this. And you'll get a lot of those notes. Will the audience understand that if you don't have like a big sign on it? Make your choices on that. But I would say very often when you do things that you're doing purely because you think the audience won't get it, you may be over explaining it. So just be wary of that. I have not decided. So I am going to leave this as a question. Okay, so I'm going to leave this as a question. I still haven't decided. All right. This is just when I get to it, I'll see. I'm just gonna, actually, it's going to be obvious. Just going to say move some of the style in there. Okay. So, what do we got here? Now, here's the thing. Like I said, as I'm going through, what I'm trying to do is say the things where I know what I'm talking about. It's like I know things I need to do. I'm putting them in this gray type, which I call details. It's the details of the scene. This is the point of the scene. And then these are the notes to myself. Notes to myself. This is the big picture. This is what is happening that may not be outwardly spoken, but is driving the scene. That's what these notes, the little centered purple different typeface is. And then I do the questions. These questions are things that I just have not figured out. Okay, so yeah, like I said, there's going to be I'm going to have to make those choices when I'm writing it. I wanted to deal with this question of do I want to intercut flashbacks, and that was the thing that felt way over the just pounding the audience's face, like hold it here, look at this. It wasn't necessary. If I can find a more subtle way to do it, cool. If not, the main note I had was just don't make the list of symptoms very specific, and then don't let the scene run so long that we forget it. That's the nuts and bolts. That solves the problem. So we'll see. The other thing is really don't get overly hung up on things at one time. If you're doing 5 drafts, you're going to notice a problem that keeps showing up over the 5 drafts, and it's better to do that than to spend a month trying to solve one scene in one draft. If you can't solve it quickly enough, just keep moving, write the rest of the draft, and then when you read it, you'll have a better context to solve that problem. That's a useful tip. Make a note of that. All right. Hi, Larry. Good to see you. Good to see all these. Okay. I can sometimes spot where a movie shifts in the story. What do you do to ensure the flow of the story is maintained? Read it over and over? Yes, partly. Partly, sometimes a movie's shift in the story is actually part of the story. like that may be what they wanted. Like that, they want you to have that experience, that shift. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes you have you'll want the audience to go, oh yeah, now the ground is crumbling beneath them, or now the action's starting. And that's okay. If it's shifting in a way that doesn't make sense, that's a problem. But ensuring the flow, I say yes. Just read it over and over, and also step away, because it's very hard to read it over and over and not start to kind of internalize it and think something works when it doesn't. So I would say do the flow, but then step away, maybe work on something else, maybe work on the outline, do anything you can to where you come back and read it, and try to get into the flow as best you can. It gets very hard to read your own work after a while. Honestly, the best way to do it, and this is crazy talk, but it's true, put it away for like 3 months. Like put it away for so long and work on something else really. Then you come back to it. Man, that is when you really, really can see things in as a stranger would. And that's incredibly valuable. If you can take the time to do that, do it. All right. I think very few things are as effective as a cigarette. It is such an actable prop. And it gives something to do with their hands. Yes. Would a drink? Yes. And would it also? No, actually, alcohol is not problematic in the way that when I talk about rating, there's a specific rating category for sex and violence and now smoking, and that was a negotiation. What happened was that the anti-smoking um, uh, lobby. I don't know the name. There were various groups that said, "Hey, you really are glamorizing smoking. Please stop." And they had a really legitimate point, and I am not faulting them. I'm just saying that the filmmaker said, "I don't really want to take it out. It's right for the character, especially like with George. Um, with George, he comes from a certain generation. That's his thing." Um, so the answer is that a the question then becomes, is a certain rating a problem? More and more on streaming, no. I mean, nobody, like you look up in the corner, and unless you're the parent of a young child, you don't spend too much time saying, I better not watch this because it's got smoking or cursing or violence. In fact, for many people, you look up in the corner or you look at the beginning of the thing and you go, oh, good, nudity, violence, sex, and smoking. I'm in, let's watch it. So, yes, and drug use generally, yes, is absolutely going to get flagged. Um, I do not know their stand on Nicorettes. I am not sure. Um, yes, although sadly, you can drink anywhere too. All right, let us move on to here's so there's two issues. One is, how was the body found? Because that's going to tell us something about George. Because the question is, who is it that he didn't show up to work? That's actually not bad. Didn't show up to work. He has a job. Bartender. So that's a possibility. That would tell us that he has people who care about him. He has a job. They came to check on him. I think that's the best one, because he's not going to have like somebody come in to clean his house, and he's. I don't want to get into like a girlfriend or something. Um, so I'm tending to think. This is the answer. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Cool. I answered a question. Ta-da! Yay! Okay. So in general, and this really comes up here. Actually, it comes over here. Decide what we want to say about George and have the house say it. This is really important. Um, when you give someone a costume or a location, very often you don't detail every part of it. That gets really annoying to read, but you're making basic choices. If somebody dresses in leather pants and a leather coat and a motorcycle helmet, they're probably not going to be a shy person. Or actually, you know what? Maybe they would be. They're retreating into their toughness. I don't know. What I'm saying is, you wouldn't. Okay, they're not going to live at Downton Abbey. I'll tell you that. So the question is, in their clothing, in their actions and behavior, and in their home, if you see their home or their place of where we see them, you're learning something about them. And I didn't fully think that out. Okay, Johannes clearly doesn't live in Los Angeles, because in Los Angeles, it is probably less problematic to drink wherever you are than to smoke. I do not smoke. I do not actually suggest anyone should smoke. But I will say, Yeah, in Los Angeles, smokers are not no longer. You can't smoke indoors. You can't smoke on the street outside of indoors. Sometimes I don't even know the rules because I don't smoke, so I don't care. Although I do care that I don't have to breathe someone else's smoke because that's nice for me. Anyway, so my point is, Las Vegas is supremely different from Los Angeles in this case. I don't know where we stand in Europe. Um, I will get to that in a second. All right, let me keep on working on this house question. Um, so here's the thing. My basic instinct is often don't do what's obvious. It's just like cool. You have a murderer, make him, give him like a lot of allergies and make him like a really like worried person or something. Um, So when I say that George is a lone conspiracy wannabe podcaster, serial killer, murderer, prostitute, I have a picture in my mind of the cliche version of that, which is someone who is not doing well in their public life, and I'm not sure how much I want to go with the cliche, because sometimes your instinct to not go to the cliche is not worth the trouble it takes. All I would say is if you're not going to go cliche, which is cool, I usually don't, be really distinctive on what is replacing the cliche, because the cliche is great shorthand. And that's why we have cliches. So I'm saying if you're not going to have a cliche, have some very clear um, alternative. And yes, exactly. That's the problem. It is harsh. And I'm not sure I need to be harsh on this. That's exactly the problem, Con. I am not sure how I feel about that because it's an easy gag. We're going to spend a lot of time in his house, and it might be sort of fun to have him be kind of cool. Um, I'm on the fence. Yes, I knew what you meant. Problematic in that way. Yes. Okay. So coming down to it, is George? How pathetic do we want to feel about George? Um, hmm. This is a great question. Um, Yeah, but the problem is that that's not going to be part of the story. That would be good. That would be a great thing, but I'm not going there. So since I know the story and I know the use of George in the story, the truth is the use of George in the story is mainly of a guy who's kind of doing his own thing and relentless and not pathetic. Actually, he's the pathetic part is kind of just a gag to break the spell after he when he is revealed to be working out of his garage. But honestly, working out of your garage is not bad. I'm working out of my garage. This is this is our garage. Um, so hmm, no problem. Um, okay. Yeah, no, that's the whole point about George is the only important thing. Okay, Johannes has got a good point. Cool people can be pathetic with a well maintained front. That's true. Although in this case, it kind of has to be the opposite, because the main thing we have to know is that George is not successful as a podcaster. I mean, that's just and I was trying to think, is that important? I was thinking, yes, that is important because if he was successful as a podcaster, there would be more people involved in the investigation of his murder. And we don't want that because we just don't have time to deal with it. Um, the whole point is Xena. Remember, the main thing about George is that he tells us something about Madeline, about her inner cool person, her inner rock and roll crazy person, and that he is vulnerable to. Xena thinks she can get away with murdering him. That's the thing that we have to remember is that's what he's used. That his essential use is to be murdered and to be Madeline's ex. That's his story. So, um, so I think the answer is going to be okay. So his home is not pathetic, but it is grounded in the past. He's not he's kind of an old guy. He's kind of a and the other thing is he's financially not well off. This is it. Okay. He's a bit grounded in the past. He's financially not well off, but he's cool. He's happy. He's doing his thing. There we go. Boom. This is my current final answer. And remember, always things can change, but yeah, this is a guy who's kind of fun, kind of cool. He's independent minded. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But the main thing is he's not. He's old. He's got a lot of old stuff because one of the things we want to do is be able to have Madeline be confronted by her past. So he's got to have it around. It can't be tucked away. It should be out front, and that's cool. And financially, well, no, it's just fair. It's just who he is. Okay. Look at that. We have gotten all the way down here, getting rid of most of. You know what? George does smoke. Okay. Okay, look at that. We got through all these. I have taken out almost all the pink, except for this one, because that's going to be a when I write it. Yes, indeed. Well, I am with you, Johannes. Since I am kind of an old man shut in, I am going to say, God bless him. All right. His podcast studio is in his garage. That's a thing we have already set up. Yeah, actually, I think he smokes because he smoked in 1985 because he smoked when he was a teenager. He smoked, and he's not given that up because he can't. It's addictive. Don't tell anyone. All right. In fact, George, so we are going to add among the things she finds in his house. This is okay. This is cool. All right. When she is looking through his life, let me see if I can find this. Where is this? Okay, several beats. Okay, one of the things among the stuff she finds is Nicorette patches and various how to stop smoking and other self-help-y things he didn't quite manage to do. So this is good. Okay, now look at that. So now we get a sense of him as a guy who's struggling with some of his stuff that is old. But yeah, I like that. That's cool. Just a little bit of his character that we can thread in. Okay. So that is. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any questions. Did I miss any questions? Did you guys ask any questions here? Here. Is this a better place to look? All right. Ah, see, I did. I thought so. How do you go about scheduling your time to write if you have a very busy schedule? This is a good and interesting question that I want to take some time on. Let's start with this, which is I have a couple of videos on the topic of creating a ritual, which is essentially what you're talking about. It's creating a schedule, creating a ritual, finding a way to work. And I urge you to take a look at that because everybody's answer for that is going to be different. Everyone has a different way that you can work it in. So everybody, how you work and what your life is like, you have to really look at those and say, honestly, not what I think will work or what other people do or what somebody else would like me to do. Think what you really can do. For instance, I talked a lot about this. It took me a long time to learn how to work, even though I thought I needed a lot of free time. I felt like I got to get into it. I got to be in the right mood, blah, blah, blah. I never had it. And I have made more room in my life than most people ever can. I have been very lucky to be able to very often, for a long time, I would just temp and I would just not have a life in certain ways. And so I could some days just like, okay, I can write today. You know what? You'd be surprised how much you can't write. I took a ghostwriting job when I was just out of college, writing for a rich person who wanted a book written. And they couldn't write it themselves. They said, hire you. I found out about this. I got this. So I actually didn't have to work except writing a dumb book. And I had a lot of free time. Did not make it any easier to sit down and write. You have to know what it is that you need to do to write. And I personally believe, I say this again, if you can create a writing ritual, think about exactly how you write best. And that may not be what you think. For instance, for me, the reason that I've done this, this thing, these documents, the overview, the outline, the text, and the notes, and then like a place to do some research and stuff. But those few documents, that actually is how I can write, because I can now, luckily, you can carry that in your phone if you have to. You can carry it in your laptop, whatever it is. Used to be, I actually had to carry a briefcase with all my notes and stuff. But what I needed was not so much the time as the place, is that when I open this document, it's organized so that even if I only have 10 minutes, I can write a little something, because I look at this document and I say, So far, so good. Okay, what's this scene about? Or if I'm in the text, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to write this one scene. And so, since I often did not have a lot of free time, if I could just say, in this, I have 15 minutes free. Let me just sit and look at this one thing. Being able to focus on one small step of the process allows you to get yourself to write often, any place, anytime. If you find that you're having a really hard time writing at home, some people do better sit in a coffee shop. Wait and see. I don't know. For me, sitting in a coffee shop, being at home doesn't matter as long as I have the physical document, the project. Then if you only get a little bit of time, at least you can make a little step. And truthfully, you will find that you get more done if you do one sentence or paragraph a day than if you try and wait till you have a lot of time and can do more. You will be amazed at how you can pile that up. And then at a certain point, when you have a free hour and you can read over what you did one sentence at a time, you'll be like, wow, it's building. I'm getting it. I've got these pieces because you have it in one place, in one organized and productive workplace. That's why I make such a big thing out of the outline. If you can work in one document, then even if you can only do a little, like I'm writing this thing mostly an hour at a time, and that hour is fully interrupted by people asking me questions. So I'm not really getting a lot of time to work on this. And that's why it's frankly taking so long. This shouldn't, if I had all day free every day, I would be able to work faster. The thing is, and honestly, when people finally get the opportunity to become professional writers, it often messes with their heads because if you have all day free to write, it's still really hard to write. It's still really hard to organize your time. And so it's better to practice that before there's money on the line. It's better to learn how to write anywhere, anytime, when you just get a few minutes. Now, let's think a little bit more about this question because it's a really good one. Scheduling the time to write. If you have a very busy schedule, one of the questions is how unstable is your schedule? If your schedule is like mine, where every day things are changing, where people are saying, "Oh, can you take me to the eye doctor?" or "Oh, I have to have a meeting," or whatever it is, and so you never know what you're going to do any day. Then the most important thing you want to do is not try and say like, "I have to write every day at 4 a.m." But if you have a regular job and you know that every day you have to get up at 7, if you're a morning person, try to get up at 6 and just cram in that 45 minutes when you have quiet time. A lot of people are night people, and a lot of people talk about how when the kids and the wife or husband or partner of any kind, if the other people in your life are going to sleep, you can have your mind to yourself. And for some people, that's the time to schedule it, to say, I am going to say to everyone, nothing personal, but I need an hour after you all shut up to work, to just be by myself and do my thing. Everybody's different. I personally could not write at night if you paid me. And there have been times when I've had to because people paid me and said, we're meeting at such and such a time at night. I hate it. I hate working at night. But first thing in the morning, I am pow. So get that in your head. What are you good at? When are you good at it? The main thing I would say is don't force it to be a lot of time. Do half an hour. A half an hour a day will get you war and peace if you keep at it. So that is my question on scheduling time to write. The most important thing is doing small amounts frequently rather than, especially if your schedule is very demanding. But if you can figure out some time to just take a little time to yourself, and if your project is easy to access, easy to work in. That's why I do this. I really try to keep it down to just a couple of documents where it's like, okay, I have to get, in this outline, I have to get this list of scenes to where I know I've answered all these questions. So if I only have a half an hour and I can just look at this and say, okay, choose these names. Okay, for the next half hour, I'm going to work at that. I'm going to put down the best I can in this time. Remember also, as I was saying before, you're going to change it. You're going to come back another half hour 5 days later, and you're going to say, oh, that one works, that one doesn't. That's part of the process. So having a good, clean, simple, portable, accessible writing ritual is really important to scheduling your time to write, finding your time to write. The other thing is work how you work. And the other thing is remembering that the writing process should include small steps that change. That's part of it. That's how it works. That's what we're doing right here. So there you go. All right. It can be, but at the same time, I honestly, the questions are really interesting and I have a good time. I luckily do not have a deadline on this project because otherwise it would not be good. This is great. I write. You have revealed something about yourself that is important. It's if I urge you to not wait until the excitement gets you. It's great if it gets you then, and then that's great. But the more important thing is create. Oh boy, is this just so important? Create a ritual of doing it even when you don't feel excited, because if only to just get a little bit of mechanics done. And the main thing is you get, like for me, I don't usually now feel the excitement until I sit down and do it. I don't want to waste that excitement at a time when I can't use it. So actually now opening up the document is what makes me go, ooh, this will be fun. It actually can flip. You actually can find the excitement in the ritual. I really think that you'll find the more that you take it out of your feelings and make it into the process, the more your feelings will just show up there. The process is everything. This is actually very true. Just like with, if you can't go to the gym, if you can't do a full workout, but if you stand up and do some jumping jacks for 3 minutes, the health experts say it's very valuable. Yes, indeed. Inspiration is for amateurs. You have to work. That is true. Larry, you have asked the $1,000 question, and the answer is no. I got a thing I got to do tomorrow. So you will be seeing me Thursday. Tomorrow's off. Everyone should be writing for yourselves. Take that hour when you would be with me. Do some writing. I know you're here. I know you're sitting there. At least 17 of you tomorrow at this time should say, oh, I don't have anything else to do. He's not here. I better open up my document and do a little work. Okay? That is... okay. As long as it's internally mashing my head against either a keyboard or a wall to get my ideas out of my head, I would say just as long as that's internal, it's fine. If it's external, let's rethink our plan. All right. So tomorrow, all of you, please go write something because I won't be here, but I will see you on Thursday and I want to know what you wrote. Okay. Go write something. That's